Hi, and welcome to the Crit Hit Wild podcast, where we cover all things Marvel Crisis Protocol, and we do a new character every week. This week, we're going to be talking about Bob, Agent of Hydra, and I'm your host, Fred.
I'm Brad.
And I'm Steven.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Brandon is either going to be late or is not going to make it. He was called away to do another responsibility. But we are here today to talk about important things like upcoming tournaments and Bob. But before we do that, Brad, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine.
That's good to hear. How are you doing today, Steven?
Doing well. Baseball team lost, but yeah, it's the season. It's a long one.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, it's fine.
Well, I am exhausted. I was up super late last night playing Vampire, and also somebody on the podcast killed my character. So
I
I'm
do
a
not
little
live
salty.
in West Virginia, so it wasn't me.
Oh well.
Fred, you brought that on yourself.
I know. I was a little bit overconfident. Let us move on to tournaments that are coming up. So coming up later in July, on July the 13th, there's going to be a tournament at CharCon. CharCon is a local convention in Charleston, and as of right now, the tournament is absolutely packed with players. It is just me and Brad, so we have plenty of space.
I want to say that is because I'm adding people as they contact me, telling me that they have bought a ticket for CharCon or whatever, and they're coming. And Fred is the only person to actually contact me. So if you're listening to this and you want to come to this tournament, I mean, you can just show up the day of. But I'd like it if you contact me beforehand and let me know. And you may be asking yourself, how can I contact you? Well, if you're in my personal Discord, you can let me know. Or I'm going to show you everyone a feature. I should have brought up my tournament for this. On Longshanks, if you go to an event, there is a message the host button, as we see on this tournament that Fred's going to talk about in a minute if you're watching the video. But there's a message the host, and that sends the host an email. And then there's also like a private messaging thing in Longshanks somewhere. But this is a good way to contact the host of a tournament. Just look for that message the host button.
Yeah, for all of those listening in podcast land, there is an easy to use function on Longshanks, and Brad is showing everybody. Okay, in coming up later in the month of July on the 20th is the next BECC qualifier, and that is at the Watchtower or the Guard Tower West in Columbus, Ohio. If you are in the area, well, it's already packed. That one is full. And it's going to be fun. I'm excited. I look forward to it. Then on the 2nd of August is the beginning of the Salt Lake Open, which is a grand tournament and an LVO qualifier. If you win this tournament, you will receive a invitation to LVO. So head on over there. That's going to be quite the show, I think. And that's it for the months of July and August that I know of. Oh, yeah. Brad.
So the TO of the Salt Lake Open tournament, Tatted Colossus on Discord, said that you can reach out to him if you have any questions or whatever about the tournament. Find him on Discord. I couldn't find the event on Longshanks, but if you can find the event on Longshanks, there's the message the host button. And I'm sure that will work as well. But yeah, that's all I had.
Okay. Is that what you wanted to bring up about the Salt Lake Open?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to games we've played recently. So, Steven, you participated in a tournament just recently at Sweets and Geeks, and it was a team tournament. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we had 4 teams, and it was the team tournament format that was adopted from Adepticon. I went over that last week, and this was a for fun tournament. So we lined up with myself and Dan, who was like our newest member to our group. We lined up against 3 different teams because we did a round robin, and we had a lot of fun. And how can you not have fun at a place that has all the candies and soda pops in the world? So, but we ended up going 1 and 2, which was fine. But there were some highlights. In our first game, we went against a Dormammu list that had Magneto and Ultron in it. So,
Oh my goodness.
yeah,
They were
yeah,
top heavy.
yeah, and we were just running Spider Foes with a couple of criminals, so we were really outgunned. So,
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay.
but it's like I said, the game was for fun, and they also took Lockjaw of all things, so just to teleport people up the board, obviously.
They took Lockjaw with Magneto and Dormammu and
Ultron too,
Ultron.
Metal Tyrant. So,
Oh wow.
um,
What an interesting list.
well, I mean, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but we lasted a lot longer than we thought we would. So we weren't picking up models left and right. I guess that's the one thing about Spider Foes, because that's who we were running. But that's the one thing about Spider Foes that tends to catch people off guard once they first play them. And amazingly enough, in this game, Mysterio held off Magneto
Oh wow.
all by himself.
Wow. That shouldn't happen.
It did. Gilbert was on the opposite side with Cody, who you guys both know, and his Magneto had terrible dice rolls, and he would pay the power, so I have 1 defense, and I roll a crit into a shield.
2 successes.
And I blocked 2 of them out of the 3 that he did. It was quite amazing. So,
Okay.
but the ultimate highlight was that Craven actually dazed Dormammu in 1 round.
Craven can dish out the damage when he needs to.
And they were just like, "What the heck just happened?" So,
Yeah.
but needless to say, they won the game in the end. But Craven was the last one standing, that's for sure. So
That rarely happens. Because he does kind of go down.
Yeah. In the next game, we switched it up a little bit, and we were going against Robbie and Enzo. They were running an Avengers list, so we sprinkled in MODOK, the original, and Hood, and Mysterio again, with Hood hailing him all the way, was very instrumental. His tricks and traps went off, I think, at least 5 times.
Man.
It was amazing.
Oh my gosh. You get so much more work out of Mysterio than I ever do.
Well, that's because there are certain scenarios he's really, really good on. And the scenario that we were on was intrusions. So you just run them right up to the middle. And then you dare people to go there.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
because if you teleport in, guess what happens?
He tricks and traps you. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just taking advantage of the scenario. And then Lizard, excuse me, not Lizard, Vulture did quite a bit of work. Took on original Captain America and Deadpool all by himself, and came out on the top end of it.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
I will say that every time I play Vulture, the more I like him. He's pretty solid.
And then MODOK just did MODOK things. So.
Yeah, MODOK was MODOK.
But surprising again, Mysterio and Vulture just paving the way, doing things. So this is the game that we won. And then the last game we played, Kyle and Gilberto, they were running an X-Force list. And we switched it up again. I was running Claw with Sandman. But we were under Doc Ock leadership because you had to have one leadership, and that's the leadership that you did all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we finally put Shocker in, and Shocker went to town. So
You're having success with characters that I've never had Shocker do well. Shocker did not do well for me ever.
but Cable is a beast, and Cable was just zotting people off the board. So
Yeah.
Claw was doing pretty good too, but yeah, in the end, Shocker dazed Rhino and he dazed Electra. Out
Oh
of all
my
things.
gosh.
Yeah, it was just surprising. I mean, Dan had some pretty good roles, right? I'm not gonna put that aside, but still, it was just like, and he gives a stun and he gives a stagger. It's just like, okay, but Gilberto ran Rhino pretty aggressive, and we were running scrolls, and he didn't get what he needed, and we had sinister traps out and did the pushes and picked up the scroll, did the push again. And Rhino was in our back line. We didn't have to move any models to attack him. It was kind of nice. So, but in the end, I mean, they just had too much firepower for us because we were a scenario team and they are an attrition team. And if you're going to 24 points, it obviously favors more attrition teams. But all in all, everybody had fun. Everybody was like, hey, we all know each other, so let's just, throw some dice and beat some things up. So,
Okay. Well, it sounds like a fun time.
yeah. Like I said, Mike's going to run a couple of more tournaments. So I'll let everybody know about it, obviously. Sometimes there are singles tournaments that are ranked on Longshanks, He's in contact with Bryce, so I don't know if they have something planned for a BECC tournament, but we'll wait and see. So,
Okay.
I think.
All right. Well, I look forward to going there at some point.
I think the plan is to add them to the current schedule.
okay. Yeah. I didn't know.
I
asked
think
him.
they were working out when.
Okay. Yeah, I asked him about it, and he said he was in contact and everything, but he didn't have a lot of details. And I said, "Oh, that's fine. I was just curious." So,
All right. Brad, do you have any games that you want to talk about?
I played a game on Thursday against CJ, who we hadn't seen in a while, and he played Spider People and played Gwenum, I think for the first time, and I played Weapon X, and the start of the game was really interesting, and it was really close, and then at some point, even with rerolls, he was not rolling defense dice, and so I killed a lot of spiders and won the game. And that's how that game went. Once he stopped rolling good defense dice, or even average defense dice. Like, he would roll 3 dice, reroll 2, reroll 1, and block 0 or 1.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
he just couldn't catch a break.
And if it was 1, I inevitably got Pierce. So
yeah.
they just started dying, and then that made it easy to win the game. So that I think that mostly came down to dice because he played it pretty well.
Yeah, dice are a thing that happens sometimes in this game. I played Borka, and
what a jerk!
Why is that?
What was he playing, Fred?
Well, Borka was playing Kingpin Criminal Syndicate.
Exactly.
Yeah, and oh boy, it's tough. We drew my secures, so there was a 2/3 chance that we draw a pay to flip, and Borka kind of wanted a pay to flip to come up because he has a plan for a different leadership in Criminal Syndicate, but it came up superpowered scoundrels, so it came up superpowered scoundrels and senators, so there were 11 victory points on the table. Suffice it to say, he ran away with this game. I feel like I was fighting pretty well in the middle, and it didn't matter because he was just scoring more points than me every single round. And he won round 3. I believe it ended like 19-13 or something like that. I just could not keep up with Kingpin.
The fact
well,
that, the
that's
fact that you scored 13 points is kind of amazing, Fred.
I'm playing a scenario team. Like it's just they do it better than me. I should have played not Doc Ock. I should have played Green Goblin's leadership and gone full violence. That should have been my plan. Maybe I'll do that next time. Oh well. That's. Does anyone have any other games they want to talk about before we move on? Okay. I just realized that we did not determine who we were going to do a recalibration matrix on.
No, we did not.
I think that because we didn't, we should skip it this week. I don't want to just throw this at other people without having discussed it. So we'll just skip recalibration matrix. We'll get back to it next week. And instead, let's just hop right into Brad's trivia game. Brad, do you want to take it away?
So here's how this trivia game works for people who this is their first episode. It would be wild if this is your first episode of the show, by the way.
It's always someone's first episode.
Yeah, maybe. So
we're not a narrative podcast. People hop in at any time.
What I do is I make fun of Fred until he cries. And so to enable this, I have 3 trivia questions for Fred where I give him information about an MCP character, but it's information from the comic books, which he does not read. Everything he knows about comic books has probably come out of my mouth. So he has to listen to me from now on, which he's starting to remember things I said better. It's making this game harder for me. Because I win when Fred loses.
Look at last week when he absolutely trounced us.
All right, so if Fred gets it correct with the original piece of information, he gets 3 points. Then I'll give him a hint where he can win. He can get 2 points, or if he still gets it wrong, then it can go to Steven for 1 point. Fred needs, let's say, 6 points to win.
Okay, that sounds fair.
Yeah, and that's how it works. Fred, do you have any questions? Great. Here's your first clue. This character was torn to pieces, killing them, by a hero who was manipulated by the former host of a multi-dimensional evil. Their friends defied everyone to bring this character back from the dead.
Did you say their friends or her friends?
I didn't hear you.
Their friends. Okay.
Yes, it is gender neutral for this part, at least.
Okay, so they were torn apart, killing them by a character that was possessed by some dimensional other being.
Formally possessed by a multi-dimensional evil.
So maybe not when they were doing the tearing apart? Okay.
Okay, there's a bad guy who had been possessed by a big evil. After that evil is no longer possessing them, they manipulate a hero to kill this person.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. They were torn apart, killing them. That makes me think that to kill them, you had to tear them apart. Which makes them very, very tough. So I'm going to say Sabretooth.
That is incorrect.
Okay.
This character is a clone of a clone and cannot feel pain.
A clone of a clone. This rings a bell.
It should, because I've absolutely said this to you before.
Yeah, this rings a bell, and I still don't remember who it is. I don't remember who this is. A clone of a clone. It's not Logan. I don't think. It's X-23.
That is incorrect.
Okay.
Steven, do you know who this is?
I have no clue. Torn apart. We'll go with the clone with clone. Honey Badger?
Honey Badger is correct.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Yes. So that
We were in the right zone.
you were in the right zone. Honey Badger is a clone of X-23, who is a clone of Logan.
Okay. I went one clone too few.
Yeah. Okay. Your next question. This character once started a theme park themed after themselves and temporarily retired from villainy. The park was partially funded by the hero that this character had kidnapped right before the park opened.
Is it Mysterio?
No.
Okay.
Your hint. This character was a janitor at the Jean Grey School.
Is it Toad?
It is Toad.
I remember that. I remember
Yeah,
that
that's
piece.
why it's the hint, not the original question.
Yeah.
He had it was like called Toadland or something, but he had bought. You don't know who Arcade is, do you, Fred?
Nope. No idea.
Arcade is a supervillain who got so good at assassinating people that he made it into a game. So he would throw people into basically like this killer amusement park type scenario.
It was called Murder World.
It's called Murder World.
Oh my gosh.
And the heroes tend to escape from it. But Toad bought a theme park from Arcade and then like didn't have the money to pay it for it. So he kidnapped Angel, who is famously rich, and like tried to extort him for money so that he could pay Arcade. And then Angel just helped him pay off his debt and then open it as a theme park, like for families. Like a legit theme park. And then Toad ran it for a while and didn't do crime until he tried to blow up the World Trade Center. Moving on.
Can I just say, in my initial guess being Mysterio, in the second of the Spider-Man games, it's Spider-Man 2 from this current generation.
Electric Boogaloo.
Mysterio, what?
Electro Boogaloo.
Yep. Very good. Thank you. Mysterio does a similar thing where he's kind of like this carnival barker that's showing his new technology for theme park rides, or kind of that deal, but they're just like illusions.
Okay. That's an interesting update to the character.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, he's still doing villainy.
Yeah. But that being like his background, that makes sense. I like that.
Yeah. It's a good game. All right, continue, Brad. Sorry.
Your third question. The name of this character came from a Beatles song about a man that gets into a shootout with his ex's new boyfriend.
Oh, what is this? What's the song? Oh, God. Named after a Beatles song. I have no idea. I'm gonna say, is it? Hold on, is it? What's a 2-pointer? Nebula?
That is incorrect.
I should have said, because I think you said male.
This character comes from Half-World. He remembered being a park ranger on that planet, but it was later revealed to him that it was a planetary insane asylum where he was tortured by robots.
Oh, God. Is it Raccoon? Is it Rocket Raccoon?
It is Rocket Raccoon. That brings you up to 5 points.
That does. That brings me up to 5 points.
So,
I think I know what the thing is. I know what the thing
the
is.
The Beatles song is Rocky Raccoon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the name of the song. I had actually never heard that song until today when I found out that he was named after it.
That's not one of the main.
No, and so I listened to it, and there's a reason I haven't heard it before.
Yeah, it's not their best.
It's really not.
uh,
Okay, so your bonus question, which you seem to think you know, is what is Rocket Raccoon's real name?
oh no.
I'm just
Oh
joking.
no.
I'm just joking. What do these characters have in common?
It's Honey Badger. It's Toad and it's Rocket Raccoon. They're all 2-pointers. They're 2-point models.
Also, the question I faked you out with was really easy. His real name is Rocket Raccoon.
Oh. Okay.
You got it correct
Uh,
for half a point. So you got 5.5 points out of 6. Good
which
job,
means I
Fred.
lose.
You lose.
Yep. Okay. Makes sense. Well, thank you, Brad, for another game of trivia. And I guess, is there anything else we need to cover before we go into the person that we're here to cover today? I don't believe so. So today we are here to cover Bob, agent of Hydra, otherwise known as Robert Dobalina. Dobalina? Dobalina. He
I don't know.
has
He's
3
he's
stamina.
Italian American, if that helps you.
Okay. It does not.
Okay.
He has 3 stamina on both sides of his card. He's a movement speed medium, size 2, cost threat value of 2, and his defenses are 2, 2, and 2. Brad, why don't you do his attacks?
Great, the hard part. His first one is physical. It's called Hydra Pistol. It's range 3, 4 dice, cost 0, and it gains 1 power after the attack is resolved. His second one is also physical. It's called Excessive Violence. It's range 4, 9 dice. It also costs 0, but it has an extra cost of you have to spend a loaded token. And then before damage is dealt, all other characters within range 2 of the target character suffer 2 damage. And then before damage is dealt, this character is thrown away from the target character short. This throw is resolved by the player controlling the target character. Then, if this character does not have a dazed token, it suffers 3 damage.
Yeah. All right, Steven, you want to finish out the card? There is a different rule on the back.
Correct. Okay, so our first active superpower is Hydra Tactics. It will cost you 2 power. Choose another allied character within 2 of this character. Place this character within 1 of the chosen character. And then Make It Spicy Bob will cost you 8 power. It is an action. This character gains a loaded token. And then Poison 8 is Muy Caliente. This character gains 1 loaded token at the start of the game. And then once we go to his injured side, he has an innate power called But How. If this character does not have an activated token and would be KO'd by having damage tokens placed on it, it gains a dazed token instead. During the cleanup phase, when you would normally flip this character's card as a result of a dazed token, it remains on its injured side, and this character loses 3 power. If at any time this is the only character you control, you lose the game.
Yeah, what a weird character. All right, let's discuss him. This character is all about the threat of excessive violence. That's what he does.
That was profound, Fred.
So his attack, excessive violence, is quite good. It is a range 4 9 dice attack that hurts all enemy characters within range 2 of the target for 2 damage. And then the enemy throws him away from them, range short, and then he suffers 3 damage. Gosh, what a weird attack. It's so good of an attack that your opponent has to think, I can't let him get this off very often, so they have to send attacks into him. And in so doing, they're not sending attacks into more important models. I think that's the best thing about him, is that he draws more aggro than he should. And he's tough to kill because if he hasn't activated yet and you take him out, he's just going to be dazed. He doesn't get taken out. you can't KO him unless he's activated. I think that's an interesting little annoyance. He's an annoyance character more than anything else.
I think
Okay,
in 40K terms, it is called a distraction carnifex.
a distraction carnifex. Yes, that's what he is. Steven, what are your thoughts here on old Bob?
I actually like him. So
Yeah, he's good. He's not bad.
I actually like him. I mean, he has a purpose, and he does that purpose pretty well, right? It's like, hey, look at me, shoot me, hit me, kick me,
Yeah.
fight me, do something, you know, or else this rocket's going to go off. Yeah, I'm after this tournament, I'm actually working on a Hydra list that can go 8 characters wide at 20. So
Oh
it,
wow.
yeah, it's pretty gnarly, but it's probably not any good. But yeah, he's in there.
Yeah.
Um, no, I just like him because he's got some playability that is kind of sneaky. One of those is in Claw Criminals. So whenever he gets dazed, Claw moves. So
That's true. That's true.
and if he's on his injured side, that's going to happen quite often.
In fact, it could happen during his activation because every time he does excessive violence, he takes 3 damage.
Correct.
So yeah, Claw would then move.
Mm-hmm. So, and he can keep doing it over and over as long as you don't activate him on his injured side, right? So,
Right. Now he does have to have the 8 power on him to do the action to gain a loaded token, which
oh
is
well, I'm not worried about that. To tell you the truth.
I think he does it maybe he does it twice, maybe 3 times in a game. The excessive
Uh,
violence. If it
I think
goes like 6 rounds.
I think the threat of it is more useful
Or what
than
you're
the
going.
actual using it and then
I,
using it later on. So
yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. The threat of it is what you're really after.
correct. Another thing I like about him in Hydra is that Arnim Zola has a card called Scientific Method. I love doing 2 damage to him and then giving him that that little attack at range 2 that counts skulls in the defense roll as damage. He's a great person to put that on, right?
I love that card. I used to use that when I was playing Hydra. We'll
But
we'll
but
we'll discuss that later on.
but unlike characters that you would put on that have healing factor and so on and so forth, that can once they get knocked out, they go away. He just gets dazed and he comes back, right? So
Yeah.
so you just put another threat on him, right? So
Right.
a 6 dice mystic attack at range 2, and this guy's running around and it only costs 1 power. Yeah, it's you got to deal with him. So
Yeah. All right. Well, Brad, do you have anything that you want to add about Bob, Agent of Hydra?
So I've played against Bob a lot because Michael plays him. And there's some interesting things. So you have to be very careful where you place him when you do an excessive violence, so that he doesn't get thrown into your characters, causing them damage.
Mm-hmm.
And he will get 1 excessive violence off in the game, for sure. The
Yes.
key is keeping him from getting a second or maybe a third. Because the first one's guaranteed. Well, there is a way to keep the first one from happening, but you have to have Deadpool and a tactics card, so that's not going to happen.
Oh, okay. I don't.
There's a Deadpool card where he can steal Bob's loaded token.
Oh yeah. It's so hyper specific that
It does other
thought
things.
about it. Okay.
That's just one of the options, but like it's not a card that ever gets played. But like, if you get off 1 excessive violence in the game and don't roll shit, then he's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's only 2 points. And
Yeah, this is the place in this game where the 2-point models always seem to hit above their cost, just because 2 points is so much cheaper than
yeah.
the other models. Like a normal model would be a 4-point model, and you can take two of these guys for that cost.
And the other thing with him is once he's flipped, you need him to activate after all of your opponent's models. Because
Otherwise, he'll die.
if he activates and they have even one model left that can attack him, he's likely going to be removed from the table. So you want to be wider than your opponent. So there's a lot more depth to him than it initially seems if you want to keep him around. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, I should say what his affiliations are. He is affiliated with Cabal and Hydra. And that's it. But those, I mean, that's you'll see him in Hydra lists all the time. I think he's probably the first 2-pointer that Hydra grabs. All right. Well, do you want? Let's talk about scientific method, the tactics card that Steven brought up. Let me pull that up. It is a Hydra specific card. It is active. Arnim Zola may spend 2 power to play this card. Choose another allied character that is a threat value 3 or less within range 3 of Arnim Zola. The chosen character suffers 2 damage, and for the rest of the game, the chosen character may use the ESP leakage attack and gains the unnatural mutation superpower. ESP leakage is a mystic attack, range 2, that throws 6 dice and costs 1 power. And before damage is dealt, the target character suffers 1 damage for each skull in the defense roll. If I were using this against Borka, he would take 3 damage every single time I used it, because he seems to roll skulls all the time in his defense rolls. And then the extra little passive superpower is called Unnatural Mutation. When an enemy character targets this character with an attack, this character adds 2 dice to its defense roll unless the attacking character pays 2 power. That increases the annoyance of Bob, Agent of Hydra, by so much that he has 4 defense no matter what you're attacking him with, unless you spend an additional 2. It'll keep him around another attack or 2, make him harder to just shoot once and not have to think about for the rest of the round. I think this is a good card to use on Bob if you're playing Arnim Zola, which is a big if.
Right, but still, Arnim Zola is in my 8 go wide 20 squad. So,
Yeah.
and Bob's there too. So,
yeah, man, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. That's a good little combination you got there.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's just one of those cards that it naturally gravitates towards other people. Like, I also like using it on Wong, of all people, because Wong can just heal the damage off of himself.
True.
And then Wong becomes a 5/5/5.
There's another thing that we need to bring up about Bob, and I think that this is an important part of it. With a lot of the 2 threats, there's a rule that says that they can't interact with objectives, like with Nebula or with Honey Badger. That's not the case with Bob. Bob can be on a back point and be scoring you objective points.
Yep.
Like, I think that's an important part of this 2-threat model to think about.
Yeah, he's got a lot of value. So
yeah, I think so. I think
I
definitely.
I don't think he's the best 2-threat, but you're not sad that you take him.
Oh, yes, I agree with you on both points. Okay, we got to give Bob a letter grade. Okay, so here's the truth. We've been talking up on Bob. He is a 2-threat model, and he's not going to change the outcome of a game enormously. The meta is not shifting around this guy. Is basically the point I'm making. I think that you don't really. You may splash him somewhere because there are 2s that get splashed all the time, but you would usually splash a different 2 than Bob. I think he's on the lower end of splashable 2s. So I'm gonna give him a gentleman's B minus. I'm gonna give him a B minus, which might be being a little bit generous, but that's where I'm gonna land. Okay, Steven, do you want to give him a letter grade?
I'm at a B plus actually.
B plus. Okay.
Yeah, he's a value as a two. I
I I
mean,
I, I don't disagree.
that's all there is to it, right? So
Yeah, yeah. Brad, what are your thoughts?
B minus sounded good.
Okay. All right. Well, that's where we're at. We're all over the bees, and I think that that's probably correct for this model. Uh, I guess I'll tell you what, we are flying through this episode. I think we've only been recording for like 45 minutes. We're closing in on the end of the episode. Brad, do you have any comic books that feature Bob, Agent of Hydra?
Yes. Bob
Really?
hasn't. Yeah, Bob hasn't been in that many comics, but I do have comics for you.
Okay.
So the first one I'm going to talk about is the series Cable and Deadpool. I'm recommending 38 through 50. This is Fabian Nicieza and Riley Brown. And this actually picks up in the middle of a story that starts in 36, but 38 is Bob's first appearance. And then he's in the rest of the run. There are 50 issues of this comic, and he's a character throughout the rest of it. Then he shows up in various Deadpool comics after that, mostly Deadpool comics.
Yeah.
Honestly, you should just read all of Cable and Deadpool, though. It is really good. It is one of the best comics that either Cable or Deadpool have ever been in. So, if you like those characters, you should just read the series. And then Bob shows
Okay.
up at the end.
There's like the relationship between Bob and Deadpool is weird as heck, right? Like,
Uh, it is. So, Deadpool tends to, when he like breaks into a place, he will find like a lackey and drag him around as he causes chaos at the facility, and then gets what he wants and then leaves. And often that lackey's like the only person he leaves alive. And Bob was in a similar situation, but then like he thought, that was weird, I'll never see him again, and then Deadpool just keeps coming back into his life, and frankly ruining it. So
as Deadpool would if you knew him.
yeah, oh absolutely. The other series I have is Deadpool Max, both Volume 1 and Volume 2. This is David Lapham and Kyle Baker. And this is not in the regular Marvel continuity, and Bob is completely different in this, but it does feature a version of Bob. This is a Max series, so it's an adult series. That's kind of in quotes because like it's just more violent and there's profanity.
Okay.
This is a weird ass series. Like it's so weird. But Bob has been assigned to Deadpool to make sure Deadpool gets his mercenary jobs done, and Deadpool kind of views him as a sidekick and is willing to sacrifice him to get what Deadpool wants. So he once again is ruining Bob's life.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
But then it's a very weird series because they could kind of do whatever they wanted, and they everything like you think about how Deadpool is, they just kind of lean into that.
Okay. It's the most Deadpool.
It is the most Deadpool.
Okay. Uh as far as ruining Bob's life, you got to remember this guy is a member of Hydra.
He's
There's not
he joined because they had the best health benefits.
Oh, what a bleak representation of modern issues.
correct me if I'm wrong, but we actually saw a little reference to this in the first Deadpool movie, right?
Yeah,
Did we?
yeah. There is a character named Bob that does show up, and um, he's not explicitly this Bob, but like obviously it was supposed to be Bob.
Okay. I don't remember that, but okay. It's been a while since I've seen the first Deadpool.
You don't remember the TGI Fridays?
No, I saw the
Oh
first
my god.
Deadpool in theaters, and I haven't seen it since. So it's
It's
been
a
a
good
while.
movie. Hey,
Yeah,
you
it's a
know
good
the
movie.
the third one's coming out like
In a couple weeks.
a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I think
Oh
the
well.
same weekend as Charcon.
Oh boy. Oh great. Okay. All right. Well, Steven, I'm gonna throw this to you. Is there a faction where you think that Bob, Agent of Hydra, would really shine?
Criminal syndicates under Claw. Throw Sandman in there and Bullseye, and then whoever else you want, and go to the races.
Okay. Is Sandman in there to put a hand behind him, so he just gets thrown into a hand?
You could do that. Also, Sandman has two grunts that when they get KO'd, Claw moves. That's all this. Th- that's all this is about. Is Claw
I
moving.
see. I see. It's a claw moving trigger, is what you're trying to fish out.
Exactly, and you're trying to get close enough to somebody when they end their activation that you push them away from a point.
Okay. Interesting.
So, yeah.
Making the most of out of Claw's weird leadership ability.
Oh yeah, and apparently some people have been very successful with it.
Okay. I applaud them. I have not figured it out on my own. Okay, well, I guess the only thing that's left is my non sequitur recommendation. Bob has never been portrayed. I guess he was portrayed in Deadpool 1, but I don't remember it. Uh, so I'm just gonna do a thing that I watched recently that I like. I finally watched Baby Reindeer on Netflix, and this is the story of a man who was the victim of a stalking campaign by a woman he met at a bar. And the weird thing about this story is that the man who is playing, who is in the series, is the man. That it is that person. Uh, and that makes it all the more interesting that this series is extremely empathetic to the person who is doing the stalking. It is very like uh, it shows all the foibles and all the things that the victim of the stalking, uh, like the missteps that they made, and uh, is very open about the mistakes that he made. It is an excellent series. It's very uh, it's very interesting to watch, and it is absolutely worth watching. I highly recommend it. That is Baby Reindeer on Netflix. And that is it for us today. Thank you very much for joining us, everyone. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Steven, for showing up. No thank you to Brandon because he never showed up. Calling him out right now. But until next week, I hope that everyone out there has a good time and has a wonderful rest of the week. Goodbye.